The rain hammered the tin roof like 1,000 unspoken regrets, turning the night into a confession booth with no priest in sight. Sadie froze in the doorway of the living room, popcorn bowls slipping from her fingers, kernels scattering across the faded Persian rug like tiny accusations. "You okay there?" Juliet's voice cut through the storm, soft as fog rolling in from the coast, her eyes locking onto Sadie's with a gaze that stripped away the years of careful hiding, promising secrets Sadie didn't know she was ready to keep. Sadie bent to gather the mess, her cheeks burning under the flicker of the TV screen, where some forgotten rom-com hero was declaring undying love to the wrong person. It was supposed to be just another Friday movie night with Eliza, her older sister, the one who'd always been the golden child, the one who married young and stayed in their sleepy Oregon town of Monroe to teach third grade and bake pies for church suppers. Sadie, at 28, had drifted back home after a string of city jobs that never stuck, now tending bar at the Driftwood, the local dive where fishermen nursed their whiskeys and eyed her like she was the storm itself. Juliet was Eliza's college friend from Portland, the kind of woman who breezed in from the city with stories of art galleries and rooftop bars, her laugh like wind chimes in a gale. Eliza sprawled on the couch, oblivious, her legs tucked under a quilt their grandmother had sewn. "Juliet's crashing here tonight, storm's a beast out there. Grab another bowl, Sadie. And maybe something stronger than this swill." She waved at the half-empty bottle of cheap Merlot, her wedding ring glinting like a warning. Juliet sat cross-legged on the floor, back against the coffee table, her damp hair curling at the ends from the dash through the rain. She wore a simple black sweater and jeans, nothing flashy, but the way the lamplight caught the curve of her jaw made Sadie's breath hitch. They settled in, the movie droning on about missed connections and second chances. Sadie perched on the arm of the couch, as far from Juliet as the small room allowed, but the air felt charged, like the moments before lightning strikes the bluff overlooking the Pacific. Juliet's gaze kept wandering, not to the screen but to Sadie, lingering on the way her fingers twisted the hem of her flannel shirt, the faint scar on her knuckle from a bar fight she'd rather forget. It wasn't pity in those eyes. It was recognition, the kind that says I've been lost too, and maybe we could find our way out together. Halfway through, during a particularly saccharine kiss on screen, Juliet leaned forward to refill her glass, her arm brushing Sadie's knee. The touch was accidental, feather-light, but it sent a jolt through Sadie like she'd grabbed a live wire. She jerked back, spilling wine on the rug this time, and Eliza groaned. "Jesus, Sadie, you're jumpier than a cat in a hailstorm. What's eating you?" Juliet's lips twitched into a half-smile, but her eyes held steady, dark and knowing, pulling Sadie under like the riptide she'd learned to fear as a kid swimming in Yaquina Bay. The storm outside raged on, thunder rumbling like the growl of old family secrets. Monroe wasn't the kind of place that forgave deviations. Gossip spread faster than wildfire through the dry summer grass, and Sadie's own whispers from high school, about that summer fling with the visiting artist's daughter, still echoed in the church pews. She'd buried it deep, dated a string of forgettable men from the mill, told herself it was the town, not her. But Juliet. She looked at Sadie like she saw the woman beneath the armor, the one who dreamed of escaping to the neon haze of Portland or the endless roads of the Oregon Trail, free from the weight of Eliza's expectations, their mother's silent prayers for normalcy. As the credits rolled, Eliza yawned and stretched, oblivious to the undercurrent. "Bedtime for this old married lady. Juliet, you take the guest room. Sadie'll show you where the towels are." She pecked Juliet on the cheek and shuffled upstairs, leaving the two of them in the dim glow of the dying fire Eliza had lit earlier. The silence stretched, thick as the fog that blanketed the town each dawn. Juliet stood slowly, stretching her arms overhead, her sweater riding up just enough to reveal a sliver of skin marked by a faint tattoo, a compass rose pointing north away from here. "You don't have to play tour guide," Juliet said, her voice low, laced with that Portland edge, all vowels softened by rain-soaked streets. "But if you want to, talk about whatever's got you spilling popcorn like it's going out of style." Sadie swallowed, her throat dry despite the wine. She led the way down the hall, the floorboards creaking underfoot like they were protesting the lie of her life. The guest room smelled of lavender from the sachets their mother insisted on, a scent that always made Sadie think of funerals and forced smiles. Juliet lingered in the doorway, fingers tracing the doorframe. Eliza talks about you all the time. The wild one, the one who got away and came back anyway. Says you're like the ocean, unpredictable, beautiful, but liable to drown anyone who gets too close. Sadie's heart stuttered. No one had ever said her like that, not out loud. She met Juliet's gaze then, really met it, and saw the mirror of her own hunger, the quiet rebellion against the scripts they'd all been handed. Marry local, stay small, don't ask for more. I should let you sleep, Sadie murmured, but her feet wouldn't move. Juliet stepped closer, close enough that Sadie could smell the rain on her skin, mixed with something earthier, like pine from the coastal trails. Or maybe we could raid the kitchen. Storm's keeping me up anyway. It was an invitation wrapped in casualness, but Sadie's pulse knew better. They ended up at the scarred oak table in the kitchen, mugs of chamomile steaming between them, the clock ticking like a heartbeat in the dark. Juliet talked first, about her job curating exhibits at a small gallery in Portland, about lovers who'd come and gone like seasons, about the ache of coming out to a family that loved her but didn't understand. It's not the hate that breaks you, she said, stirring her tea absently. It's the love that's conditional. Like they'll hug you, but only if you promise not to ruin the picture. Sadie nodded, words failing her. But her hand found Juliet's across the table, a tentative bridge over the chasm of her fears. By the time the storm broke, dawn creeping in like a hesitant lover, Sadie felt the first crack in her carefully built walls. Juliet's laugh, her stories, the way her fingers lingered on Sadie's wrist. It was all too much, too soon, but in the best way, like finally breaking the surface after holding your breath underwater for years. As they parted for the morning, Juliet's whisper followed her. This town's got its claws in deep, Sadie, but you don't have to let it win. That look from the night before haunted Sadie through the day, as she wiped down the bar at the Driftwood, the scent of stale beer and fried clams clinging to her skin. Customers grumbled about the weather, about the mill layoffs that had gutted half the town, about kids these days with their city dreams. Monroe clung to its edges like moss on driftwood, proud of its fishing heritage, its annual cranberry festival, but suspicious of anything that smelled of change. Sadie's family fit right in. Dad gone too early to a heart attack, Mom running the library with a Bible verse for every overdue book, Eliza the perfect daughter with her husband Tom and their toddler on the way. But Sadie? She was the outlier, the one who'd fled to Seattle after college, chasing graphic design gigs that paid in ramen and regret. Coming home had been a surrender, or so she told herself, though the truth was the pull of roots ran deeper than she admitted. Juliet's arrival felt like a lifeline tossed into the undertow, but lifelines could tangle, could drag you under if you weren't careful. Eliza called during Sadie's break, her voice bright as always. Juliet's heading back to Portland tomorrow, wants to see the lighthouse before she goes. Tag along? It'll be fun like old times. Old times when Sadie and Eliza would bike to the bluffs, whispering dreams under the stars. But old times didn't include this flutter in her chest, this fear that one wrong glance could unravel everything. She met them at the trailhead, the path winding through Sitka spruce that whispered secrets to the wind. Juliet wore hiking boots and a wool cap, her cheeks flushed from the chill, and when she smiled at Sadie, it was like the sun breaking through clouds over the bay. Eliza chattered about baby names, oblivious, while Sadie and Juliet fell into step behind, their shoulders brushing on the narrow trail. Last night, Juliet murmured, low enough that only Sadie could hear. I couldn't stop thinking about that scar on your hand. What's the story? Sadie flexed her fingers, the white line a reminder of the night a drunk regular had swung at her for refusing a pour. Defending territory, she said, and Juliet's laugh was warm, inviting more. They talked in fragments, about the pull of the city versus the solace of the sea, about families that shaped you like driftwood, smooth but scarred. At the lighthouse, perched on its rocky promontory, the foghorn moaned like a soul in torment. Eliza snapped photos, but Sadie and Juliet stood at the railing, watching waves crash below. It's beautiful, Juliet said, but her eyes were on Sadie, not the sea. Terrifying too. Like it could swallow you whole if you let it. Sadie's throat tightened. She wanted to say yes, that's how I felt my whole life here. But Eliza called them back, arms laden with picnic sandwiches. The afternoon blurred into easy laughter, But under it simmered the tension, the what-ifs that kept Sadie awake that night, staring at the ceiling as rain pattered once more. The next morning, Juliet left with a hug for Eliza and a lingering touch for Sadie. Her number slipped into Sadie's pocket like contraband. Texts started that week, innocent at first, photos of Portland street art, complaints about gallery deadlines. Then deeper. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? Sadie's replies came haltingly, her thumbs hovering over the screen, heart racing like a deer in headlights. Weeks turned to months, their friendship blooming in stolen weekends. Juliet drove down for the Cranberry Festival, blending into the crowd with her city poise. But her hand found Sadie's under the harvest moon, a secret pact amid the hayrides and cider. Eliza noticed nothing, too wrapped in her expanding belly and Tom's promotions at the mill. But Mom's eyes sharpened at dinner one night, her fork pausing mid-air. That Juliet girl's got ideas above her station. City folk always do. Sadie defended her with a laugh, but the words lodged like thorns. The first kiss happened on a rainy November evening. Juliet's car pulled off Ottercrest, engine idling as thunder rolled. Sadie had confessed her fears. The town, the family, the part of her she'd locked away since that summer at 16, when Clara from Eugene had kissed her under the bleachers and vanished with the tide. Juliet listened, then cupped Sadie's face, her touch gentle as sea glass. You're not broken, Sadie. You're the strongest current in this whole damn ocean. Their lips met, tentative then fierce, tasting of salt and possibility. In that moment Monroe faded, the judgments, the what would they says dissolving into the rhythm of breath and heartbeat. But as Juliet drove away that night, Sadie touched her lips, tasting not just desire, but the bitter edge of inevitability. Love like this didn't thrive in the shadows. It demanded light, and light in Monroe could burn. Sadie's phone buzzed at odd hours now. Juliet's messages a lifeline in the monotony of shifts at the driftwood. Pouring drafts for the same faces. Old man Hargrove with his war stories. The mill workers nursing grudges against the union. They blurred into one endless gray. But Juliet's words cut through. A photo of fog-veiled bridges. A voice note of her singing off-key to some indie folk tune. A simple good night, ocean girl that made Sadie's chest ache with something dangerously close to hope. They met when they could, carving out pockets of time like smugglers hiding contraband. A hike along the Nehalem River, where the water ran cold and clear, and Juliet's fingers laced through Sadie's, pulling her into the underbrush for kisses that left them breathless against mossy trunks. Dinners at hidden coves, takeout from Portland spread on blankets, the stars wheeling overhead like conspirators. Juliet spoke of leaving Monroe behind, of a life in the city where galleries showcased queer artists and cafes buzzed with unapologetic lives. Sadie listened, enchanted, but the roots tugged. Family dinners where Eliza's glow lit the room, Mom's quiet pride in her daughters, the town that had cradled her through Dad's death. You're holding back, Juliet said one evening, as they lay tangled in the sheets of Sadie's attic room, the house silent below. Rain drummed the skylight, a private symphony. Sadie's body hummed from Juliet's touch, but her mind raced ahead to the fallout. What if I can't? She whispered, tracing the compass tattoo on Juliet's hip. This place. It's in my bones. And Eliza, she'd never understand. Juliet propped on an elbow, her dark eyes searching. Love isn't a spectator sport, Sadie. You can't live half in, half out. I've tried. She told stories then of her own coming out. Parents in Eugene who cried not from anger, but from the fear of losing their perfect daughter to a world they didn't know. Juliet had left anyway, piecing together a life from fragments, but the scars lingered, faint as the lines on her palm. Sadie envied that courage, the way Juliet wore her queerness like a badge, subtle but unyielding. In Monroe it was different, whispers about the that-way girl who'd fled to California, the pastor's sermons on family values that landed like veiled threats. Sadie had internalized it all, dating Tom back in college because he was safe, predictable, a man who shook her hand at Eliza's wedding like she was just another bridesmaid. The breakup had been mutual, quiet, but it left her adrift, questioning if desire was a luxury she couldn't afford. Yet with Juliet it felt essential, like air after drowning. They planned a weekend away, driving east to the Cascades, where snow-capped peaks mocked the flatness of their secrets. In a cabin rented under Juliet's name, they shed their skins, Sadie laughing as Juliet taught her to build a fire, sparks flying like the ones between them. Nights blurred into mornings of lazy exploration, bodies mapping each other with the reverence of cartographers charting unknown lands. This is what freedom tastes like, Juliet murmured against Sadie's neck, and for the first time Sadie believed it. Back in Monroe, reality reasserted itself like the incoming tide. Eliza cornered her one afternoon in the kitchen, flour dusted from baking scones for the church bake sale. "You've been different lately. Glowy like you're hiding a promotion or something." Sadie's laugh came too quick, too sharp. "Just the seasons changing, sis. Fall does that." But Eliza's eyes narrowed, the twin intuition flaring. They'd shared everything once. Diaries under mattresses, midnight confessions about crushes on teachers. Now the gap yawned, filled with Sadie's unspoken truths. Tom noticed too in his gruff way, clapping Sadie on the back at family barbecue, his voice low. "Heard you've been seeing that Portland gal. Juliet, right? City's got a way of loosening folks up. Just be careful, yeah? Town talks." The warning hung, laced with the protectiveness of a brother-in-law who'd grown up fishing these waters, where currents could turn deadly without notice. Sadie pushed it down, but the pressure built, a storm gathering offshore. Juliet sensed it during their next rendezvous. A stolen lunch at a diner on the highway, booth sticky with syrup ghosts. "We need to tell them," she said, fork paused over her Cobb salad. "Eliza's your sister, she'll come around." Sadie stared at her untouched fries, the grease congealing like her resolve. "It's not just her. It's Mom, the job, the whole damn tapestry. One pull and it unravels." Juliet reached across, her touch grounding. "Then let's unravel it together. I've got a show in Portland next month. Sublet with me for a bit. See if it fits." The offer dangled, tempting as forbidden fruit, but Sadie saw the thread snapping. Eliza's hurt, Mom's withdrawal, the barstool regulars who'd turn cold overnight. She nodded, murmured maybe, but inside the war raged. Loyalty to the family that had anchored her versus the wild call of self. That night, alone in her room, Sadie pored over old photo albums, dust motes dancing in the desk lamp's glow. Pictures of Dad hoisting her on his shoulders at the county fair. Eliza and her in matching dresses for Easter. The three of them on the porch swing, laughing at nothing. The weight pressed, familial love a chain disguised as comfort. Juliet's text lit the screen, "Thinking of you. Dream of mountains, not tides." Sadie typed back "I will," but deleted it, sending only a heart emoji instead. Small, safe. A placeholder for the leap she wasn't ready to take. Winter crept in, frosting the evergreens with indifference. Holiday lights strung Main Street, casting Monroe in a festive haze that masked the undercurrents of isolation. Sadie worked double shifts, the bar alive with carols and eggnog-fueled confessions, but her mind wandered to Juliet's apartment, imagined windows overlooking the Willamette, walls lined with canvases that screamed authenticity. A package arrived one gray afternoon. Juliet's artwork, a small watercolor of the lighthouse, waves rendered in blues that shifted from serene to savage. Tucked inside, a note. "For the girl who navigates by feel. Come find me." The pull intensified, a riptide she could no longer ignore. Sadie drove to Portland unannounced, the coastal highway unspooling like a confession. Juliet opened the door in paint-smeared overalls, surprise blooming into joy, pulling her inside where the air smelled of turpentine and possibility. They tumbled into bed, urgency born of absence, bodies reaffirming what words couldn't yet bridge. "Stay," Juliet whispered after, fingers tracing Sadie's spine. "Just for the weekend. Let it be real." It was coffee runs to hole-in-the-wall spots where baristas knew Juliet by name, walks through the Pearl District where murals celebrated love in all its forms, dinners at queer-owned bistros where hands intertwined without fear. Sadie felt the expansion, her world cracking open like eggshell under a thumb. But Sunday loomed, the drive back a countdown to secrecy. At the city limits, Juliet kissed her fierce. "This isn't ending, Sadie. Not on my watch." Yet doubt shadowed the miles home, the radio crooning ballads of lost loves. Eliza was waiting when she pulled in, arms crossed on the porch, face etched with worry. "Where've you been?" "Mom's been calling. Said you skipped choir practice." Sadie climbed the steps, Exhaustion settling like damp fog. Needed a breather. Portland, actually. Juliet's show. Eliza's brow furrowed. Alone? With her. The question hung, innocent but probing, and Sadie felt the first fracture. The lie slipping through her teeth like sand. That night, as snow dusted the roof, Sadie lay awake, Juliet's painting propped on her dresser like a beacon. The town slept, but her heart thundered, torn between harbors and horizons. Loyalty whispered, stay, mend the seams. Desire roared, go, claim your storm. And in the quiet, she wondered if peace lay in choosing, or if the choosing itself was the breaking. The fracture widened with the new year. Monroe blanketed in a rare snow that muffled the world but amplified the echoes inside Sadie's head. The bar slowed, patrons huddled by the space heater swapping tales of blizzards past, but Sadie's thoughts drifted north, to Juliet's texts that arrived like smuggled letters. Miss your laugh echoing off these brick walls. Come thaw me out. She replied in stolen moments, fingers flying while stocking bottles, each word a brick in the wall she was building toward escape. Eliza's suspicions simmered, bubbling over during a family dinner at Tom's folks' place, a rambling farmhouse on the outskirts where the air smelled of wood smoke and simmering stew. The table groaned under pot roast and cornbread, kinfolk trading barbs about politics and the high school team's losing streak. Sadie sat wedged between Aunt Ruth, who pressed church flyers into her hand, and little nephew Jamie, who smeared peas on her sleeve. Juliet's absence felt like a ghost at the board, her influence woven into Sadie's silences. You've been scarce, Tom said later, cornering her by the woodpile as she fetched kindling. His breath fogged the air, axe in hand from splitting logs. Eliza worries, says you're mooning over that friend of hers. Juliet. Sadie stiffened, stacking wood with deliberate care. It's nothing. Just complicated. Tom nodded, slow, his eyes kind but firm. Complicated's fine, till it hurts the family. We've got enough storms without inviting more. The warning landed like felled timber, heavy with the town's unspoken code. Protect the unit, preserve the facade. Back home, the confrontation came swift as a squall. Eliza waited in the living room, fire crackling low, a mug of cocoa cooling on the side table. Sit, she said, patting the couch, her voice threaded with that big sister steel. Sadie obeyed, the cushions sagging under her weight. What's going on with you and Juliet? Don't lie, I've seen the looks, the late nights. Mom's noticed too. Sadie's mouth went dry, the cocoa untouched. She could deny, deflect, but the words clotted, truth rising like bile. It's more than friendship, she managed, eyes on the flames. Eliza recoiled, mug clattering. More? Like, oh God, Sadie. The horror in her voice sliced deeper than any slur from the bar. Not anger but betrayal. The twin bond fracturing under the weight of Sadie's hidden self. How long? Does she know what this place is like? The talk, the judgment. It's not Portland, Sadie. It's us. Family. The plea twisted the knife. Eliza's hand on her arm, a mix of love and desperation. We can fix this. Talk to Pastor Hale, he's helped folks before. Just don't throw it all away for something that won't last. Sadie pulled back, the room spinning. Fix this. As if her heart were a frayed hem to be mended with good intentions. It's not broken, Eliza. It's me. The real me. Tears stung hot and unbidden as Eliza stood pacing. You're throwing us away. For her. After everything, Dad gone, me holding it together. This hurts, Sadie. It betrays everything we are. Betrayal, the word echoed. A mirror to Sadie's own guilt. She fled to her room, door clicking shut like a verdict. Sleep evaded her, the snow outside piling accusations. Juliet called at dawn, voice sleepy warm. Missed you last night. Weekend plans. Sadie curled under the quilt, whispering the unraveling. Juliet listened, then fierce. Come here. Now. We'll face it together. But the drive felt impossible, chains of blood thicker than desire. Instead, Sadie sought solace in the familiar. The bluff trail, boots crunching virgin snow, the ocean a distant roar. She thought of Dad, how he'd taught her to read tides, warning that some pulls were stronger than will. Was this one? Juliet's love felt like that, inexorable, but Eliza's pain was the anchor dragging her back. At the overlook, she sat on a driftwood log, wind whipping her scarf, and wept for the girl she'd been, the woman she might become. Portland called 2 weeks later. Juliet's exhibit opening a siren song. Sadie drove through sleet, arriving disheveled to a gallery humming with clinking glasses and murmured appreciations. Juliet spotted her across the room, eyes lighting like beacons, weaving through patrons to pull her into a shadowed alcove. "You came," she breathed, lips brushing Sadie's temple. The kiss that followed was reclamation, bodies pressing close amid abstract seascapes that mirrored their turmoil. The night unfolded in fragments, Juliet's speech eloquent on themes of hidden currents and breaking free, toasts from friends who embraced Sadie without question, a after-party in a loft where laughter drowned doubt. In bed later, Juliet's apartment a cocoon of exposed brick and half-finished canvases. Sadie confessed the dinner, Eliza's words replaying like a looped reel. "She thinks I'm betraying her. The family. Everything's sacred." Juliet held her steady as bedrock. "Love doesn't betray, Sadie. Hiding does. Eliza's scared of losing you, of what it means for her perfect world. But you're not hers to keep small." The truth settled, uncomfortable but clarifying. And in the dark, Sadie traced Juliet's features, committing them to memory against the pull back home. Return brought the backlash. Mom summoned her to the library after closing, the scent of aged paper and regret thick. Seated at a scarred reading table, Mom's hands folded like prayer. "Eliza told me about you and that girl." No judgment in her tone, just sorrow, eyes red-rimmed. "I always knew you were different, Sadie. Prayed it away for your sake. This town, it's hard enough without adding stones to your path." Sadie reached for her hand, the first voluntary touch in years. "It's not a path to stones, Mom. It's my path to light." Mom's grip tightened, then released. "Light comes with cost. Your father's death. It bound us. Don't make us pay more." The plea echoed Eliza's, a chorus of conditional love that clawed at Sadie's resolve. She left with hugs and unresolved ache, the streets slick with melt, reflecting neon lies. At the Driftwood, whispers had started, Hargrove's knowing nod, a waitress's averted eyes. Business dipped, or maybe it was Sadie's imagination, but isolation crept in, a slow poison. Juliet drove down that weekend, defiant, joining her for a shift, charming the skeptics with tales of city oddities. But as closing neared, a regular, bigoted Walt from the docks muttered loud enough, "Ain't right, 2 gals like that. Ruins the joint." Juliet's retort was sharp, Sadie ejecting him with shaking hands, the door slamming like finality. In the parking lot, rain sheeting down, Juliet pulled her close. "This is the cost. But worth it." Sadie nodded, fierce through tears. "Every drop." Yet doubt lingered, a shadow on the dash. Eliza's radio silence stretched weeks. Family gatherings skipped with flimsy excuses. The betrayal Sadie felt wasn't just hers, it was mutual. The love they'd shared now weaponized against her truth. Spring hinted at thaw, crocuses pushing through frost, but Sadie's world remained frozen. Juliet's sublet offer resurfaced over coffee at a roadside stand, steam rising like unspoken pleas. "Move in. For real. We'll build something unbreakable." Sadie stared at the bay, seals barking on rocks below. Unbreakable? Or just another illusion? Shattered by distance from kin? The decision crystallized in a dream. Dad on the bluff, pointing to the horizon. "Wake up, kid. Tide's turn." She texted Juliet yes, heart pounding, then faced the storm at home. Eliza answered the door hollow-eyed, Jamie on her hip. "I can't lose you," she said before Sadie spoke, voice cracking. "But I can't watch you hide either. Just promise you'll visit. Be my sister still." The vow sealed it, bittersweet as farewell. Packing was ritual. Books yellowed with childhood marginalia. Dad's old compass. Juliet's painting rolled like a flag. Mom helped silently, folding clothes with care, slipping a rosary into Sadie's bag. "Find your peace, child. And bring it back to us someday." The drive to Portland felt like rebirth. Coastal cliffs giving way to urban sprawl. Juliet waiting at the on-ramp with open arms. But as they merged onto the highway, Sadie's phone buzzed. "Eliza. Love you. Always." The words blurred in tears, not of loss but release. Betrayal had cracked the shell. Now in the fragments she glimpsed wholeness. Summer unfurled in Portland like a banner of defiance, the Willamette glittering under relentless sun, street fairs pulsing with bass that drowned old ghosts. Sadie's sublet became home. A third-floor walk-up in the Alphabet District where ivy climbed the fire escape and neighbors nodded without prying. Juliet's canvases lined the walls, bursts of color against exposed brick. Waves crashing in indigo fury, figures entwined in defiant embrace. Sadie found work at a bookstore cafe hybrid, shelving queer lit by Audre Lorde and Alison Bechdel, the scent of fresh grounds mingling with ink and liberation. Mornings were ritual. Juliet sketching at the kitchen table, Sadie brewing coffee strong as her resolve, their legs tangled under the formica top. "You look like you belong here," Juliet said one dawn, charcoal-smudged fingers brushing Sadie's cheek. And she did, laughing with baristas who shared coming-out scars, wandering farmers' markets where stalls overflowed with rainbow flags and artisanal cheeses. The city hummed acceptance, a symphony Sadie had only glimpsed in stolen weekends. But cracks spiderwebbed from Monroe, reminders that freedom's price was severance. Eliza's texts came sporadic, laced with Jamie's milestones, first steps, crayon scribbles, each a barb of what she'd left. "Miss you at the beach picnic," one read, photo attached of the family on Yaquina Sands, Mom's smile strained. Sadie replied with Portland sunsets, Juliet cropped out, preserving the fragile bridge. Mom called Sundays, voice tinny over the line, updates on library expansions and church quilts. "Town asks after you. Say you're thriving." Thriving, the word a talisman against the undercurrent of loss. Juliet noticed the drift, pulling her onto the fire escape one humid evening, city lights winking below like fallen stars. "You're here, but not all of you. Talk to me." Sadie leaned against the railing, beer bottle sweating in her hand. "It's the guilt. Like I abandoned them for this, for us." Juliet's hand found hers steady. "You didn't abandon. You chose life. That's not betrayal. It's bravery." But bravery felt hollow when Eliza's birthday loomed, invitation arriving like indictment. "Come home. Just family. No drama." Sadie went, driving solo through August heat, the coastal road a ribbon of memory. Monroe welcomed her with open arms and veiled glances, Hargrove at the bar slapping her back. "Heard your city folk now. Don't forget your roots." The party was low-key, backyard strung with lanterns, kinfolk grilling salmon from the bay. Eliza hugged her fierce, whispering "missed you" into her hair, Jamie toddling over with sticky fingers. Mom's eyes shone, pride warring with worry. "You look happy," she said, and Sadie nodded, the lie easy in the twilight. Tom manned the grill, flipping fillets with practiced ease, his nod cordial but distant. "Portland treating you right?" Sadie murmured yes, steering clear of depths. The evening flowed, laughter rising with the smoke, but tension coiled when Aunt Ruth cornered her by the cooler. "Heard whispers about that lifestyle up there. Dangerous, Sadie. Come back to church, let it wash clean." The words landed like hooks, yanking at healed wounds. Sadie excused herself, breath ragged, wandering to the bluff where waves gnawed the earth. Eliza found her there, blanket draped over shoulders. "You okay?" Sadie shook her head, tears hot. "I thought distance would fix it, but it's like I'm still apologizing in my sleep." Eliza sat, the blanket shared, their shoulders touching like childhood. "I was wrong to push your happiness. It's hard to watch from afar, but it's yours. Just know we're here, no conditions." The concession cracked Sadie open, sobs racking as Eliza held her, the ocean's roar swallowing the pain. Relief flooded back to Portland, Juliet listening that night with wine and takeout tie. "See? Threads don't snap, they stretch." But the visit unearthed more. A letter from Mom arriving days later. "Found Dad's journal in the attic. He wrote about your spirit, how it scared him sometimes, but he was proud. Be free like he wished for all of us." The words undid Sadie anew, layers peeling to reveal the man she'd mythologized, flawed but forward-looking. Fall brought Juliet's biggest show yet, a solo exhibit at a Hawthorne gallery titled Tidal Pulls. Canvases exploring desire's drag, figures caught between shore and sea. Sadie helped hang them, ladders teetering as they debated light angles, laughter echoing off white walls. Opening night buzzed, critics mingling with locals, champagne flutes clinking like toasts to survival. Juliet dedicated its subtly eyes on Sadie during her speech. To the ones who teach us to swim against the current. Pride swelled, but so did vulnerability. Success spotlighted their bond, inviting scrutiny. A reviewer mentioned the artist's muse, a transplant from coastal shadows, and suddenly Sadie's face graced art blogs, Monroe's ghost stirring. Calls came. Eliza excited, sharing links. Hargrove grumbling over beers about fancy nonsense. Then the backlash. An anonymous email to the gallery. Veiled threats from concerned citizens back home. Dredging Sadie's high school whispers. Juliet raged, pacing the loft. This is why we fight, for space, for breath. Sadie calmed her, but inside fear flickered. The exhibit drew crowds, but so did the haters. Pickets outside with signs preaching repentance. One evening as Sadie locked up, a woman from Monroe, Pastor Hale's wife, approached, Bible clutched like shield. We've prayed for you, dear. Come home before it's too late. Sadie stood firm, voice steady. My home's where love lives. Thanks for the prayers, but I'll keep swimming. The incident hardened resolve, Juliet and Sadie forging armor in quiet nights. Planning trips to Vermont relatives for Juliet, Oregon visits for Sadie, weaving lives without erasure. Yet conflict brewed closer. Juliet's ex, Lena, resurfaced at the gallery, all charm and history, inviting collaboration that smelled of unfinished business. Sadie watched from afar, jealousy a sharp tide, but Juliet shut it down swift. Past is canvas, not current. Winter whispered warnings, first snow dusting the bridges. Eliza announced labor early. Sadie driving through flurries to hold her hand in the hospital. Jamie's sister arriving pink and wailing. The moment bound them anew. Exhaustion etching Eliza's face with grace. Auntie Sadie, she murmured, placing the bundle in her arms. She'll need your wild stories. Tears fell, forgiveness a balm on old wounds. But peace fractured spectacularly that spring. Juliet's grant came through. A residency in New York, 6 months of immersion in the art scene. Come with, she urged over diner pancakes, syrup pooling like golden opportunity. Sadie froze, forked midway. And the bookstore? Monroe visits? Everything we've built. Juliet's eyes darkened, hurt flashing. Or nothing. You're still half-tethered, Sadie. When do we become the whole story? The argument simmered days, text terse, silences heavy. Sadie walked the river alone, Willamette's flow mocking her indecision. Loyalty pulled south to family mending. Desire east to horizons Juliet chased. Betrayal loomed, not in choice but delay. In a rooftop garden under cherry blossoms shedding pink regrets, Sadie confessed, I'm scared of losing you to the distance I can't bridge. Juliet cupped her face, thumb tracing lip. Then bridge it, or we drown apart. The ultimatum hung, love's edge cutting deep. Sadie nodded, trembling. New York. Us. Relief crashed, kisses sealing the pact, but as they descended, Sadie glimpsed the cost, roots severed further. Family a postcard away. Packing stirred tempests. Eliza helped virtually, video calls of bubble wrap and teary laughs. Mom sent a care package. Quilt squares from home, Dad's compass polished bright. Navigate true, the note read. Monroe faded in the rearview, Portland away station, New York the unknown sea. Juliet drove, hand on Sadie's thigh, radio crooning anthems of reinvention. Freedom tasted sharp, laced with ache, but in Juliet's profile against the skyline, Sadie saw the worth, humanity reclaimed one bold stroke at a time. New York swallowed them whole, a concrete leviathan of steam vents and siren songs, where brownstones huddled like conspirators under iron skies. The residency loft in Brooklyn loomed high, windows framing the East River's relentless churn. Juliet's studio a chaos of easels and turpentine ghosts. Sadie navigated temp work. Freelance design for indie zines, barista gigs in Bushwick cafes where accents tangled like yarn. The city pulsed indifferent, a balm to Monroe's scrutiny, but its vastness amplified isolation, echoes of home bouncing off graffiti walls. Juliet thrived, days lost in paint and critique circles, evenings recounting epiphanies over rooftop falafel. This place demands you, she said, charcoal-streaked eyes alight. Sadie nodded, but the demand chafed. Auditions for community theater fell flat, her coastal cadence drawing polite smiles. Friends formed in fragments, queer brunches yielding acquaintances but no anchors. Letters from Eliza arrived weekly, Jamie's scrawls evolving to sentences. Auntie, come see my boat. Guilt gnawed a rat in the walls. Mid-residency, betrayal struck insidious. Juliet's mentor, a silver-haired sculptor named Reed, wove into their orbit dinners at his Soho atelier, discussions veering from form to flirtation. Sadie noticed the linger of his hand on Juliet's arm, the inside jokes that excluded her. He's just passionate, Juliet dismissed over late-night ramen, but doubt seeded, watered by exhaustion. One night Sadie returned early from a shift, loft door ajar, murmurs spilling out. She froze in the threshold. Juliet and Reed, bodies close over a clay maquette, his whisper too intimate, her laugh too yielding. Not touch, but the charge crackled, a spark threatening flame. Sadie backed away, heart hammering, fleeing to the river walk where barges groaned like wounded beasts. Betrayal not outright, but the erosion, the slow drift from us to me. Confrontation brewed over breakfast, bagels cooling untouched. Last night, Sadie started, voice steel. With Reed. It looked. Juliet's fork clattered, eyes widening. Nothing happened. He's pushing boundaries, yeah, but I shut it down. You think I'd? Hurt flared, defensive. You're the one who pulled me here, Juliet. Promised unbreakable. But it feels like I'm chasing shadows while you shine. The words unleashed torrent. Juliet accusing Sadie of clinging to Monroe's ghosts. Sadie retorting Juliet's ambition blinded her to shared ground. I left everything for this, Sadie cried, tears salting the air. Family roots for you. And now? Juliet reached, but Sadie recoiled. Maybe that's the problem. I came for us, but you're already halfway gone. Silence stretched, a chasm. Juliet stood, voice breaking. I love you, Sadie. But love bends, it doesn't break unless you let it. Talk to me, not at me. They parted for the day. Juliet to studio, Sadie to Central Park. Autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle promises. She sat by the reservoir, sketching absent waves, mind replaying the loft scene. Was it infidelity or fear manifesting? The line blurred. Monroe's judgments whispering amplification. Reconciliation came halting. Juliet waiting at dusk with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall dim sum spot. Loft lit soft with string lights. I ended it with Reed today. Told him boundaries or bust. Sadie searched her face, finding truth in the fatigue. I overreacted. But it scared me, losing you to this city's pull. Juliet pulled her close, apologies murmured into hair. We're the current, not the driftwood. Steady together. Healing deepened in vulnerability. Juliet sharing fears of burnout, the residency's pressure masking doubt. Sadie admitting homesickness, the ache for Eliza's laugh, Mom's quiet wisdom. They rebuilt with intention. Weekly date nights at queer open mics, where Sadie's stories of Oregon tides drew applause. Joint applications for Sadie's green card and art, bridging her designs with Juliet's visions. Winter bit hard, blizzards blanketing the burrows, confining them to the loft's warmth. News from Monroe pierced the cocoon. Eliza's promotion to principal, laced with wish you were here to celebrate. Sadie booked flights. Juliet opting to stay. Your family, your time. The return flight south felt like exhale, Monroe's chill familiar. Arms open despite the frost. Eliza met her at the airport, hug bone-crushing. About damn time. The visit unfolded in layers. Holiday lights on Main, Jamie's tree decorations askew. Mom's kitchen yielding pecan pies and halting questions about New York. Heard about the show. Proud but. You okay? Sadie nodded, sharing sketches. Juliet's photo slipped in casual. She's my partner, Mom. In every way. Silence, then a nod. As long as she treats you right. That's all a mother asks. Eliza pulled her aside later. Bluff walk under star-pricked sky. Seeing you happy. It stings less now. But don't vanish, yeah? We're mending, not severed. Tears mingled with sea spray. Sadie vowing visits, calls, the stretch of love proven resilient. Back in Brooklyn, snow melting to slush, she recounted to Juliet, who listened with wine and wonder. You did it. Bridged the worlds. Spring residencies and loom, decisions pressing. Juliet offered extension, Sadie countering Portland return. Closer to roots, Juliet's gallery ties. Home base, she proposed. With travels to feed the art. Agreement sealed with rooftop vows, city sprawl witness to their pact. But climax crested unexpected. A gallery scout from San Francisco, drawn to Juliet's work, proposing dual city representation. Opportunity dazzled but demanded Juliet's split focus, Sadie sidelined to visits. Panic flared, old wounds reopening. Again? Me waiting while you chase. Sadie accused over packing boxes, tape gun slapping like judgment. Juliet whirled, frustration boiling. This isn't chasing, it's building us. Or do you want me small like Monroe tried to keep you? The barb struck, Sadie storming out to the bridge, Manhattan's lights mocking her turmoil. Hours later Juliet found her, coat draped over shivering shoulders. I can't lose you to ambition. Or fear. Juliet knelt, eyes fierce. Then don't. We're equals in this, Sadie. Partners, not passengers. The truth pierced, Sadie's fear was the betrayer, projecting abandonment onto Juliet's drive. Dawn broke as they walked home, hands clasped, planning hybrid lives. Sadie freelancing remote, Juliet splitting coasts, Monroe anchors quarterly. Summer solstice marked renewal, a low-key commitment ceremony on a Fire Island beach. Friends in linen, vows exchanged to wave crash. To currents that carry, not capsize, Juliet said, ring simple silver engraved with compass points. Sadie echoed, heart full. To depths we dive together. Revelry followed, bonfire stories of triumphs and tumbles. Queerness celebrated unapologetic. Yet humaneness surfaced in quiet aftermath. Letters to Eliza detailing the day. Mom's tentative blessings, dear. A care package from home. Quilt completed with New York skyline patch. Betrayal's shadow faded, replaced by awakening. Love's not possession, but permission to grow, intertwined yet individual. In the loft's hush, Sadie sketched their future. Waves merging, not merging, eternal dance of loyalty and liberty. The second year in Portland settled like silt after flood. The city a gentle harbor where Sadie and Juliet moored their shared life. The Alphabet District walk-up expanded to a garden-level duplex. Backyard plot yielding tomatoes and basil under Juliet's green thumb. Sadie's designs adorning the fence in whimsical murals. Freelance bloomed. Sadie illustrating for a queer literary mag. Covers pulsing with coastal motifs laced with urban edge. Juliet's gallery thrived, exhibitions touring coasts, but home remained the axis. Evenings of shared journals over nettle tea. Monroe visits wove seasonal rhythm. Summer cranberry halls with Eliza's clan. Jamie now a whirlwind of questions. Auntie, why do you and Jules hold hands like mom and dad? Met with gentle truths, Eliza's nod approving. Mom softened, library chats veering to books on identity. Her I've been reading A Bridge of Effort. Tom grilled alongside. Banter easing old tensions. His city suits you gruff but genuine. Roots nourished without strangling. Distance a fertilizer for growth. Yet drama stirred insidious, betrayals echo in new guise. Juliet's success drew suitors, collectors with propositions veiled as patronage, one persistent. Victoria, a venture capitalist from Seattle, all sharp suits and sharper wit. Dinner started professional, Juliet's accounts glowing. She's funding the next series, Big Break. Sadie smiled through unease, but Victoria's touches lingered. Emails flirtatious under business veneer. Suspicion crested at a gallery reception. Sadie circulating with tray of hors d'oeuvres. Catching Victoria's hand on Juliet's lower back, whisper too close. Jealousy surged, hot as flashpoint. Sadie fleeing to the alley. Rain slicking pavement. Juliet found her, concern etching brow. What's wrong? Sadie whirled. Her. The way she looks at you. Like I'm invisible. Juliet pulled back, stung. It's networking, Sadie. You know the game. The drive home crackled, words weaponized. Networking or temptation? You've danced this before, read now her. Juliet slammed the door, voice rising. And you're the martyr. Always the wounded coastal girl? I chose you every time. But your doubt poisons it. Silence fell heavy, Sadie retreating to the garden. Dirt under nails as she yanked weeds. Metaphor for the rot within. Dawn brought reckoning. Juliet at the table with coffee, eyes shadowed. I see it now, Victoria's crossing lines. I told her off last week, but I should have told you first. Transparency, not assumption. Sadie sank opposite, vulnerability raw. I'm scared. Success pulls you and I feel small. Juliet bridged the table, hands clasping. You're the sea, Sadie. Vast, essential. My anchor. Tears cleared the air, rebuilding in honesty. Boundaries set with Victoria, date nights reclaimed, therapy sessions unpacking insecurities rooted in Monroe's soil. Summer waned into harvest, Juliet's touring exhibit hitting Eugene, close enough for Sadie to join. The city stirred ghosts, Juliet's family home, parents welcome wary but warming over potluck. You've built something real, her mother conceded, eyeing their laced fingers. Juliet's brother clapped Sadie on back. Keep her grounded, yeah? Laughter eased old scars, Juliet's eyes shining gratitude. Fall climaxed in crisis. Eliza's call at midnight, voice fracturing. Mom's sick. Bad. Heart like dad. Sadie flew south, Juliet canceling shows to follow. Monroe's hospital hummed sterile, Mom frail in gown, monitors beeping dirge. Eliza paced, Jamie hushed in Tom's lap. She waited to tell, didn't want to worry. Sadie's hand found Mom's, cool and veined. You stubborn ocean, she whispered, echoing Dad's teases. Vigil stretched days, Juliet a quiet sentinel, fetching coffees, holding Sadie through sobs in waiting room. Eliza cracked under strain, collapsing into Sadie's arms. I pushed you away once. Don't leave now. Sadie held tighter. Never. Mom rallied slow, surgery a gauntlet but emerged whispering. Saw you too. Strong like him. Recovery wove them closer. Family dinners and hospital trays, Juliet charming nurses with sketches, Eliza sharing baby blankets for the newest niece. Discharge brought homecoming, Sadie's old room aired for Mom's convalescence. Nights on the porch, Juliet and Sadie rocking, stars pricking velvet sky. This place shaped you, Juliet murmured. But doesn't own you. Sadie nodded, peace settling. Betrayal's specter. Family's initial rejection, transmuted to alliance. Mom's quiet, I see now, the love in your eyes, a benediction. Back in Portland, autumn leaves carpeted streets, renewal and decay. Sadie's mag illustrations earned a feature. Juliet's exhibit reviews lauding emotional depth, collaborative spirit. They hosted Eliza's visit, Jamie romping garden, wine flowing with tales. You two. Your family now. Eliza toasted, glass raised. The word sealed healing. Conflicts alchemized to strength. Winter solstice ceremony echoed Fire Islands. Backyard fire pit. Friends local and flown in. Vows renewed under garlanded evergreens. To betrayals that teach, Sadie said. And loves that endure. Juliet echoed, ring-kissed. To awakenings shared and sacred. Revelry warmed the chill. Dances to fiddle tunes blending coasts. Spring birth projects. Joint book, Sadie's words with Juliet's art. Tales of tidal loves. Launch in Monroe surprised. Library hosting, Mom emceeing. Crowd mixed but murmuring approval. Pastor Hale attended, handshake firm. Growth humbles us all. Eliza beamed from front row, Jamie waving homemade banner. Summer closed the circle, coastal road trip retracing origins, bluff picnics, lighthouse vigils. At Yaquina, waves eternal, Sadie turned to Juliet. We made it through the storm. Juliet smiled, wind-tousled. Because we chose each other, every riptide. The story's arc bent toward light. Not erasure of pain but integration. Societal norms challenged, not conquered but navigated with grace. In Monroe's quiet, Sadie glimpsed transcendence. Humanity in the mess, love's quiet revolution against the tide of expectation. And in Juliet's gaze, the promise. Together they were the horizon, endless, unyielding.